Millionaire discovers maid's daughter. Dancing with his paralyzed girl, his amazing act changed everything. The sounds of laughter drifted through the open window, carrying with them a bittersweet echo that tugged at Daniel Harmon's heart. Standing amid his artfully arranged flower beds, he rubbed his hands on his trousers, attempting to squeeze away the anxiety that coiled tighter with each echo of joy from inside. He looked up to see Mia's silhouette, framed in the glow of their opulent living room, shining in stark contrast to the overwhelming darkness tearing at his insides. These moments, the laughter, the carefree sway of young girls, felt foreign to the shell of a father he had become since the accident. He knew every little law that governed their world, wealthy, polished, full of privilege, but none of it mattered when he thought of Mia. Paralyzed from the waist down, she wore her sorrow like a shroud. Yet, when he peered through the window, he was taken aback by the sight of Sophia, the maid's daughter, spinning around her in wild abandon, a stark color against the muted tapestry of his life. Awe mingled with unease. How could someone from a different world so easily breach the walls he'd built around his daughter's heart? His thoughts raced, mired in guilt and anger. Each twirl from Sophia seemed to twist the dagger deeper into his conscience. Who was he to judge? But with that dance came a nagging worry. What if Mia's joy was a facade? He couldn't deny a simmering fear that this friendship, a tightrope walk between classes and cultures, was a mistake. A part of him shrunk away from the spark flying between them, worried it would only illuminate the chasm forming between Mia and himself, widening at every turn. Still, as the days passed, he watched their connection flourish. Mia's radiance built, revealing glimpses of the fearless girl he used to know. Sophia seemed to awaken something in her, a light he thought had vanished. This bond, so tender yet so tenuous, threatened to shake the very foundations of the polished life Daniel had constructed. A talent show approached, and Daniel felt the tightening grip of responsibility. Should he embrace this partnership that lit up his daughter, or suffocate it out of fear and habit? It was all so confusing. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But as the performance date loomed closer, Daniel found himself trapped in a vortex of dread. What if he couldn't keep up appearances? What if others judged the sight of his daughter sharing a stage with Sophia? His breathing grew irregular, muscles tight with conflict. What was at stake? How could he allow this friendship to blossom when everything in his life had taught him to guard against risks? It felt like watching a mirror crack, reflecting parts of himself he had buried deep. Standing on the brink of revelation, he stared out into the night, unable to escape the gnawing truth. The values he had been raised on might shatter beneath the weight of love and worth as he clung to the edges of his carefully built empire. In the shadow of a decision that could unravel his reality, an unsettling thought clawed at him. What if Mia's newfound happiness suggested he had been wrong all along? The winds of change began to swirl around him, and Daniel stood paralyzed, stuck between the gilded cage of his expectations and the freedom of his daughter's choice. The day's tension coiled tightly around Daniel's throat as the performance date drew nearer. He could feel the suffocating grip of his upbringing, the crystal-clear beliefs about social standing and reputation pressing against his chest. Each countdown to the talent show simulated an out-of-control ticking bomb, threatening to expose his insecurities and judgments for all to see. It all seemed insurmountable. The fear of judgment from peers, draped in silk, and those societal whispers mocking the wrong connections. As Daniel sat in his expansive office, a cavernous room adorned with accolades and trophies, reflecting past victories, he couldn't help but notice how empty it all felt. His gaze fell upon the large painting over his fireplace, a depiction of an illustrious gala that once made him feel invincible. In that moment, it felt lifeless, like a page in a forgotten story. Suddenly, he realized those accolades meant little if they overshadowed the relationship with Mia. The door creaked open, breaking his trance. It was his assistant, Janet, her expression a mixture of concern and impatience. "Mr. Harmon, your meetings are lined up for today," she reported, flipping through her notes. But her keen eye observed his distraction. "Cancel them," he said quietly, noticing the tremor in his voice. Deep down, he knew this moment was vastly more important than anything business could offer him. He felt a strange sense of liberation mixed with fear. Indeed, he was facing something he had avoided for far too long, the connection with his daughter and the foreign world she was forging. His decision gnawed at him. If he pushed for a more traditional path for Mia, wouldn't he be caging her once again? Could he, a millionaire encased in privilege, dare to step outside and let the exhilarating chaos of life break through the ivory walls he'd built? Or should he cling to convention, convincing himself it was for her protection? The voices in his head intertwined, a cocktail of ethics and convoluted justifications. Time passed, and for the first time he found himself pondering. The more he thought about Mia and Sophia, the more he felt a shift within. What if he could harness this energy, this reckless joy of friendship, and discover something new about himself? Was it possible that beneath the polished surface of wealth lay untapped potential? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting deep shadows that blurred the edges of his carefully crafted life. He picked up his phone, fingers trembling as he composed a message to Mia. The words sparked with vulnerability, a direct invitation to share her thoughts about the performance. "Mia, how do you feel about dancing with Sophia at the talent show? How does it make you feel? I want to hear you," he typed slowly, his heart racing with uncertainty. Within minutes, a response lit up the screen, buoyant and full of youthful enthusiasm. "Dad, it's amazing. I can't wait. Sophia makes me feel free to be myself. It's going to be fun." Daniel could almost feel the warmth of her excitement through the screen, and for the first time in years, he questioned what it meant to be her father. Was it to protect her, or to support her unveiling? The balance wavered precariously. In his heart, a tiny flame ignited, a seed of enlightenment. He began to imagine the possibility of change, a new version of himself that could embrace love over judgment. The realization unexpectedly washed over him. He had been missing out on living. Yet a darker shadow loomed as he remembered the words of those society figures with whom he mingled. What would they think of him if they saw Mia performing beside Sophia? Would they still respect him? Discomfort crept back into his mind, whispering cruel reminders of the world he belonged to. But suddenly, the thought crystallized into action. Maybe the price of respect was too steep if it meant losing precious moments with Mia. The moment felt alive, pulsing with the urgency of new dimensions stirring within him. The question lingered, demanding a response. Was it finally time to jettison the shackles of his past? In a rush, he made a decision that would shape the course of things to come. It was time to confront the deeper truths about his identity and embrace the love he had for his daughter. As he pressed send, the words hung in the air, his choices trembling at the edge of transformation. And so, standing at the precipice of change, Daniel realized that his life might never be the same, the struggle for acceptance from others shredding in the wake of a more substantial call. But as he set his sights on the upcoming performance, another wave of dread crashed within. What unforeseen consequences would confront him when he stepped outside the protective bubble of his reality? The time had come to face the truth of his masked existence, and it terrified him. Daniel stood before the window, peering into dusk as the world around him faded into soft silhouettes. The weight of his decision lingered in the air, a birth of hope intertwined with dread. He could no longer deny the ripple coursing through his veins. He was ready to embrace the unknown. Each inch of his office, once a sanctuary of triumph, now felt like a gilded cage. As he took a deep breath, he instinctively moved towards the door, motivated by a new resolve. The echoes of boardroom discussions and power plays were drowned out by a primal urge to connect with Mia on a deeper level. He needed to join her in this moment of her life, not as a distant benefactor, but as an engaged father. In the car, Daniel felt an urgency that propelled him through the motions of traffic, the city lights blurring past. The music on the radio became a mere backdrop to his gathering thoughts. He pictured Mia's face, her radiant smile, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about Sophia and their plans. The raw authenticity of their joy held an almost magnetic quality, drawing him toward a realization he could no longer ignore. He wanted that connection for himself. This was about more than just a dance performance. It was about reclaiming parts of himself that he had long since buried beneath layers of wealth and the expectations that came with it. As he parked outside their modest home, the facade felt unthreatening, even inviting. Perhaps the homespun quality of their lives held something more enriching than the extravagance he was used to. Upon entering, he found Mia sprawled on the living room floor, papers and colored pencils scattered around her. She glanced up, her face lighting up in delight. "Dad!" she exclaimed, momentarily dropping a drawing of herself and Sophia in exaggerated poses. Her unreserved joy clung to the air, making it feel lighter. For the first time, Daniel felt gravitational pull, as if awakening a part of himself. The curious part, the part he thought he had lost amid the concrete jungles and materialistic pursuits. He plopped down beside her, shoving aside professional barriers, and engaged deep into their shared world. "What are you working on?" he asked, conscious of the raw excitement pouring from her. "It's us. Well, kind of. Sophia's going to wear a sparkly dress, and I'm going to wear these super cool shoes." She giggled, animatedly pointing out each detail. The innocence in her eyes reminded him how precious and fleeting moments were when embraced without reservation. As she continued sharing her visions for the performance, Daniel began to see a reflection of his younger self, a boy untethered by expectations, bubbling with dreams. He wanted to restore that sense of wonder in his life, to recognize his own capabilities beyond the confines of wealth and status. Could he rediscover the passion he used to have? The idea filled him with both exhilaration and fear. "Mia," he ventured slowly, "would you let me come to your rehearsal tomorrow? I'd really like to see you and Sophia practice." Her eyes went wide, sparkles dancing in them as she nodded fervently. "Yes, you have to see us. You'll love it, Dad." Deep inside, Daniel felt a transformation brewing, layers of self-imposed constraints beginning to peel away. Yet as night enveloped the sky, doubts surfaced like ghosts from the past. Could he still be accepted in this new dynamic he craved? Would he be able to let go of the relentless pursuit of external validation? An internal tug-of-war had begun. The questions of acceptance loomed large. Would embracing Mia's world unveil new dimensions of his own? Suddenly, the looming performance didn't just represent a milestone for Mia. It was a potential catalyst for his own metamorphosis. As they continued to share laughter and plans, Daniel realized his destiny was not just to guide Mia, it was to explore the uncharted possibilities within himself, illuminated by his daughter's emergence into a life he had tried so hard to shield her from. But as excitement bubbled within, an unsettling thought prickled at the back of his mind. How would the world react when they caught sight of him stepping out of his carefully constructed persona? Could he, a man of status, dare to be vulnerable in a place where judgment reigned? The time to confront his fears had come, and as he looked into his daughter's eyes, determination blossomed afresh. He had to break free, to step boldly into an unknown future, ignited by the light Mia radiated. And yet, within the flicker of hope erupted shadowed uncertainties. What consequences would follow when he embraced the path less traveled? And how would he navigate the complexities waiting for him on the other side? The answers waited just beyond the horizon of his evolving self. As dawn filtered through the curtains, Daniel awoke with a newfound vigor. He laid in bed, the weight of yesterday's intentions still fresh, but anchored by a sense of purpose he had long forfeited. Today would mark a shift, a deliberate departure from his past existence. The rehearsal loomed ahead, and with it the anticipation of witnessing Mia shine like a star, enkindling the dim hopes buried within him. After breakfast, the morning felt almost surreal. He prepared himself, choosing simple attire that stood in stark contrast to the tailored suits and polished shoes constituting his life. He needed something that reflected the openness he sought, a tiny symbol of the shift he was attempting to navigate. As he drove to the community center, the familiar routes felt both strange, yet increasingly welcoming, under a layer of warmth he hadn't noticed before. Each street corner held memories he had overlooked. Sights were now flavored with the zest of exploration rather than obligation. The arrival brought with it a flurry of anxious energy residing just beneath the surface. Upon stepping into the center, a scent of wood and the hum of disjointed sounds hit him. Children filled the spacious room, their laughter giggling through the air, a stark reminder of innocence he had long neglected. They seemed clustered in their own world, utterly unconcerned with the boundaries of status or expectations. As he scanned the space, searching for Mia, a moment of realization hit him hard. He was undoubtedly outside his comfort zone. In this era of his life, vulnerability felt raw and new, a landscape filled with both fear and opportunity. The walls were painted with bright colors, each hue meant to spark creativity, and yet Daniel felt like a shadow in a world ignited by pure light. "Mia!" he called, trying to maintain the excitement but hearing his own voice quiver. From across the room, he saw her, a whirlwind of energy enveloped in her dance attire, radiating enthusiasm. Her smile, a beacon, cut through his doubts like a knife. Mia bounded towards him, her giggles echoing against the walls. "Dad, you came!" she squealed, throwing her arms around him. "Yes, of course. I wouldn't miss it." He realized that the sincerity in his own words surprised him. Would he ever truly believe this was where he belonged? Adrenaline rushed through him as the rehearsal began. The instructor led the group, guiding them with infectious fervor, and as they danced, a strange rhythm stirred inside Daniel. Each twirl and leap from the children ignited a hunger in him, a longing to break free from the chains of his past. Yet the thorn of uncertainty pricked him again. Could he unleash the creative spirit hidden within, or was he destined to remain an observer? Mia danced with unyielding enthusiasm, her innocence an utter contrast to the cynicism woven into Daniel's world. He felt entranced, wanting to document each move, longing to etch the memories deep within his mind. Would this be the day he confronted the man he had become? As the practice progressed, the instructor took a moment to gather the children. They huddled while she spoke, their little faces expectant, waiting for the next burst of inspiration. Daniel stood aside, feeling like an outsider. But then, something shifted. The instructor turned toward him. "You're Mia's dad, aren't you? Would you like to join them for a dance?" His heart raced at the sudden suggestion. Their expectant gazes surrounded him, tiny eyes pleading for his participation. Fear gripped him, a tightness that clawed at his resolve. But he saw Mia's shining face, her eyes brimming with encouragement. Taking a step forward, Daniel felt the ground beneath him solidify. This was it, The internal battle he had fought so hard was now spiraling into a moment of decision. Could he rise beyond his fears? He took a deep breath and swallowed hard, deciding in that heartbeat to shed the weight of his past. All right, let's do it. As he stepped into the circle, a sense of elation spread through him. They began to move, be it awkward or clumsy. He felt alive, free. And in that exhilarating chaos, he discovered a sense of joy he had been shielding himself from for too long. But just as he began to let go, the instructor's words echoed inside his head, unveiling inevitable truths. How would this change him as he ventured further into Mia's world? Lost within the dance, Daniel realized that his journey had only just begun, and as he twirled under the scrutiny of watchful eyes, he sensed an approaching storm. What would unfold next as he ventured deeper into this uncharted territory? Daniel's heart raced with exhilaration as he moved with the children, their laughter intertwining with the sound of his own breath. It was surreal, yet liberating, a sharp contrast to the boardrooms and sterile meetings that suffocated his creativity. As he stumbled through the motions, he could feel the weight of years spent in a bubble of conformity shatter with each sway and spin. The dance floor was a realm stripped of judgment, a sanctuary where he could explore the facets of himself he had long neglected. But as he twirled and twisted, joy collided with fear. Outside the circle, he could see the walls of responsibility loom, a harsh reminder of the life that awaited him once this dance ended. The thought of returning to his structured world clashed violently with this newfound liberation. In that brief moment of panic, he caught Mia's gaze again. Her eyes sparkled with unparalleled delight, a reflection of the warmth he yearned to explore. It anchored him, reminding him of why he had stepped away from his comfort zone in the first place. As the session continued, Daniel became increasingly aware of his surroundings. The children were not just dancing, but also conveying emotions that ran deeper than joy: enthusiasm, longing, unrestrained freedom. In the vibrant bursts of movement, he saw reflections of dreams untainted by adult burdens. It unsettled him, this stark juxtaposition of innocence against his calculated existence. When the instructor took a break, marking the end of the routine, the children flopped down in exhaustion, glowing with satisfaction. Daniel stepped away, heart pounding. Tension coiled in his chest like a tightly wound spring. He had committed to this fleeting moment of abandon, but how could he sustain this desire for growth? What tangible steps were available in his regimented life, where creativity was a mere afterthought? "Mia, you were incredible!" he exclaimed, bending down to her level. Her face lit up at his praise. "I loved having you dance with me, Dad. We should do it more often." Her innocence struck him with a profound realization, a desperate need to break the cycle of his previous self. Could he actually wield his position as Mia's father to cultivate a new, more vibrant life for both of them? Yet a familiar chill crept in. What would happen when the reality of his responsibilities crashed back in? The start-up meetings, the looming deadlines, they threatened to sweep away the vibrant threads of spontaneity he had tasted today. His fingers drummed absently against his thigh as he considered the different paths unfolding before him. Suddenly, the instructor's voice cut through his turmoil. "Daniel, are you interested in future rehearsals with your daughter? We're planning a community showcase soon. It could be a great opportunity for you both." The implication hit Daniel like a bolt of lightning. He was being invited to step onto a stage, to risk exposure, not just of his clumsiness, but of who he was becoming. It filled him with both anticipation and dread. "I'll think about it," he managed to reply, his thoughts spinning with the weight of both possibilities and responsibilities now threatening to take root. As he stepped out into the sun, he felt the heat wrapping around him, urging him forward. Outside, the world felt renewed, pulsating with a potential he had been blind to. but shadows loomed at the corners of his mind. Could he commit to this journey for more than a fleeting moment? Emerging from this experience, Daniel sensed a change flickering within him, a whisper of conviction that was ever so fragile. Yet beneath it lay a growing certainty that if he didn't act on this epiphany, fear would swallow him whole once again. The dance, as exhilarating as it was, presented a daunting question. How could he translate this desire for change into reality? And just as he pondered the choices ahead, his phone buzzed in his pocket, a message flashing an unexpected name. It was from his old business partner, an invitation he couldn't ignore. The moment of truth beckoned, entwining his past with the exciting unknown that had begun to reveal itself. What would this message bring, and how would it shape the path he was on? Daniel stood outside the dance studio, staring at his phone as the message from his former partner lingered in front of him. His mind raced, shifting between memories of past ambitions and the vibrant feelings he'd just experienced on the dance floor. Could he really step back into that world of high-stakes business, or had the dance opened a door to something new? His thoughts drifted as he recalled the vibrant swirls of color, the laughter, the raw energy of innocent expression. He realized that he desperately craved that feeling of purpose, a charge that had been absent from his life for far too long. His priorities had shifted sharply in that single afternoon. Dancing with Mia had shown him the value of living in the moment. With determination flooding through him, he swiped to open the message. It was an invitation to discuss new business ventures that could potentially reinvigorate their old partnership. But would reigniting that partnership lead him back into a life void of spontaneity? He quickly paced along the sidewalk, feeling static energy between his hands as he faced the decision looming ahead. The thought of building a new future was enticing, yet it carried the weight of responsibility and expectations that once drowned his passion. What if diving back into business meant sacrificing this newfound joy? In a flurry of thought, Daniel found himself standing at a crossroad. With each step forward in his career, he felt the thrill of potential drown in the stagnation of routine. It was maddening. He could harness the energy he discovered on the dance floor, turn it into something that didn't merely fuel his bank account, but also his soul. Daniel stopped at a nearby bench, the sun dipping low in the sky. It was a moment to breathe, to sort through the noise. He considered the interplay of his roles: father, businessman, artist. How could they coexist? Could he create a life for Mia that embraced both the demands of his career and the liberating spirit of artistic expression? His mind flickered to the upcoming showcase. Could this be the bridge, a commitment to something tangible together with Mia, where they could take the lessons of freedom and creativity they had tasted and share it with the world? The vision excited him. He could turn a simple dance practice into a collaborative project, uniting their passions. Yet a voice inside him questioned the practicality. His old business partner would demand full commitment, full sacrifice of all else in pursuit of profit. Could he maintain a balance? Or would the world of finance imprison him once again, pushing aside the vibrant, spontaneous moments that had rekindled his spirit? He thought of the children's laughter, the joy of being in the moment with Mia, and the flicker of encouragement from the dance instructor. Could that be his guiding principle? What if he could design a business model that embraced creativity and spontaneity, infusing it into the rigid structures of corporate life? The contrast became clear, and the adrenaline of possibility surged through him. What if he accepted the invitation, equipped himself with a plan, and used his business acumen not to stifle creativity, but to amplify it across every aspect of his life? Daniel's heartbeat quickened, a mixture of dread and exhilaration flooding his senses. The stakes felt higher than before. He could not only reshape his future, he could create a legacy for Mia that celebrated courage and creativity over conformity. As he rose from the bench, resolve hardening in his chest, he knew he had to act. Picking up his phone again, he drafted a reply to his partner, outlining his availability for the proposed meeting. But as he hit send, a thought struck him. What was the point of seeking this balance if it meant losing touch with the very person who inspired it all? He paused, the sun sinking lower, casting long shadows across the pavement. He needed to talk to Mia about this, to encourage her to dream with him. Together, they would redefine their lives. Just as his mind solidified this intention, another buzz in his pocket startled him. Another message, this one from Mia's dance instructor, outlining the details for the community showcase preparations. Daniel's heart raced anew. He felt the electric pull of challenge and opportunity sparking around him. The moment had arrived. Would he dare to bring his daughter into this dream with him? In a world that often felt out of reach, perhaps this would be the step that solidified his journey towards the future he yearned for. Tomorrow, he would discuss everything with Mia and embark on this labor of love together. But tonight, lying awake, a deeper question nagged at him. Could this venture change the very core of who he was and what he believed? He had no answers, only the feeling of the unknown looming ahead and the knowledge that he must be willing to embrace it. The next morning dawned bright and clear, filled with possibilities. Daniel paced the kitchen, the aroma of coffee mingling with his anxious thoughts. He had spent the night turning his plans over mentally. How to talk to Mia, how to weave the essence of creativity he had felt while dancing into their lives. The moment he heard her soft footsteps approaching the kitchen, a vast expanse of hope filled him. The earlier vulnerability now transformed into a fierce determination to share this newfound vision. He glanced at Mia, watching her rub her sleepy eyes and stretch like a cat emerging from slumber, the innocence of childhood still radiating from her. "Good morning, Dad." Her smile broke across her face, illuminating the room. It anchored him, reminding him of what was truly important. "Good morning, sweetheart. Can we talk about something very exciting today?" he asked, feeling an electric thrill in his veins as he said it. After a few bites of her breakfast, Mia looked up from her cereal, curiosity evident in her sparkling eyes. "Exciting? Like what?" "More dancing." His heart raced. There it was, the bridge he hoped to build. "Exactly like that, but even more. I thought we could work on something together for the showcase. I want to share our passion, your dance and my ideas, to create something special." Mia's mouth opened in delight, but Daniel felt the weight of uncertainty press down. Could he really bridge the gap between the realities of business and the pursuit of artistic expression without losing what he held dear? "What do you mean? Are we going to perform together?" she asked, her enthusiasm bubbling over. "Not just perform. I want to create a piece, something that combines your dancing with stories that matter to us." Daniel leaned closer, grappling for the right words to give her a sense of the magnitude. "I want to show the world how dancing can connect people, regardless of their circumstances." Her eyes widened as she considered this. "Like how you felt yesterday?" He nodded, encouraged by her understanding. "Yes, and even more. I want to share how dance can bring joy and healing." "But what about your other work? The business stuff?" she inquired, her brow furrowing slightly. Caught off guard by her question, Daniel hesitated. It stung to think of returning to the corporate grind while preaching a message of creativity. "That's a part of it too. I can bring those ideas into the dance world, create something beautiful without sacrificing my time with you." Mia seemed deep in thought. Then, with the seriousness of her young age, she replied, "But what if it doesn't work? What if you don't get to do the business thing?" A jolt of doubt coursed through Daniel. What if she was right? What if he failed at balancing both worlds? For a moment, the familiar inner voice of his past whispered of safety and success defined solely by financial gain, urging him to stick to the known. But then he saw Mia looking at him, full of hope and expectation. The passion he felt yesterday in the dance studio and the idea of creating something together solidified in his core. "I'd rather try and fail than never try at all," he finally answered, steadying his resolve. "If we create something meaningful, something that reflects who we are together, that's success in my book." Her smile broadened, and for an instant the swirling tension in his chest lessened. They began brainstorming ideas, Mia suggesting themes of friendship and self-discovery, and Daniel shaping those ideas into narratives, weaving a personal tapestry. As the conversation unfolded, a sense of purpose dispelled the fear of the previous night. Daniel was no longer a businessman at odds with his soul. He felt like an architect of dreams. Still, an undercurrent of apprehension pulled at him. The looming business meeting, his old partner's expectations, the potential rejection of his creative endeavor. How would he manage both? Here lay the pivotal decision that could either solidify his vision or reduce it to a fleeting hope if he failed. As Mia departed to practice, Daniel watched her go, his heart swelling with affection yet stirring with unease. The intertwining paths of his past and present felt more complex than ever. In that moment of quiet, uncertainty settled back into his thoughts. Could embracing this change lead to a conflict that would put his relationship with Mia to the ultimate test? Tomorrow's meeting could redefine everything, and it would come at a cost he wasn't fully aware of yet. Tonight, he would put together a plan, but a sense of dread lingered. Could he stand firm against opposition when he was still unsure of his footing? The uncertainty rattled within, whispering ominous questions about the balance he sought. As the day wound down, Daniel realized he stood on a precarious ledge. The act of creating this bond with Mia felt monumental, yet the decisions awaited him. Tomorrow, he would confront the business world, but could he equally defend the dream they were constructing together? Would he be swallowed by the challenges of the past, or free to embrace the dance of the present? The answers lay beyond the horizon, just out of reach, igniting a precarious hope intertwined with fear. As twilight descended over the city, Daniel found himself at his desk, surrounded by notes and sketches of ideas for the showcase. The warm light of the desk lamp highlighted the remnants of his day, a half-eaten sandwich, the empty cup that had once contained his coffee, and pages filled with thoughts that danced just beyond his grasp. His mind oscillated between excitement and doubt. He wrote down ideas for their performance, dance as a medium for storytelling, themes of overcoming adversity, and the unbreakable bonds of family. But each word seemed weighed down by the shadows of his corporate obligations. He picked up his phone and scrolled through messages from his partner Jack, reminders of tomorrow's meeting. They were steeped in the language of commerce, a language Daniel felt was suffocating him. The phone buzzed with an incoming message, and a pang of anxiety shot through him as he anticipated the seeking clarity of his partner's ambitions. But how could he possibly articulate a vision that melded the analytical world of business with the ethereal beauty of dance? The thought of walking into that conference room, glowing with the hopes of a transformed life, yet tethered to old expectations, felt like an insurmountable challenge. He rose from his chair, pacing the room. Mia's enthusiasm from breakfast echoed in his ears. Could he really convey that passion to Jack? What if Jack dismissed the idea as naive? The reality of meeting tomorrow began to morph into a specter looming over him, each tick of the clock amplifying the tension gnawing at his resolve. Recalling Mia's first question about failure, Daniel faced a grim realization. What if it doesn't work? What a chilling possibility. It could lead to losing everything he had worked for. But he knew too well the alternative. Remaining in the confines of corporate success without fulfillment was a risk that seemed equally daunting. A daydream of his past unfolded. He envisioned himself in meetings dominated by numbers and graphs and felt the suffocation creep back in. Yet Juxtaposed against that memory was the vibrant scene of Mia whirling across the floor, her joy palpable, a beacon illuminating a path. "I'd rather try and fail," echoed in his thoughts. Would that conviction hold strong in the face of Jack's skepticism? He took a deep breath, shifting the weight of his internal conflict. Perhaps the secret to balancing both worlds was not to erase one for the other, but to incorporate the lessons of each. The artistry he sought to cultivate with Mia could be enhanced by the analytical skills he had developed in business. Maybe showing Jack the economic potential of tapping into the performing arts could validate his vision. With renewed clarity, he grasped a pen and began drafting a dual proposal. It could connect dance and storytelling to corporate interests, demonstrating how creativity could lead to higher engagement, improved company culture, and increased productivity. The prospect excited him, as if he were sculpting a bridge between two worlds that had previously felt irreconcilable. By the time he put the pen down, there was an undeniable spark of hope. Maybe this was far from just a personal journey. It could redefine aspects of his professional life if he played his cards right. But as the evening deepened, another concern slithered into his mind. If he found success in his pitch, would it detract from the time he had promised Mia? The thought of entangling their project within the corporate framework created a fresh layer of anxiety. He envisioned Jack pushing for bigger commercial goals, demanding more commitment, pulling him away from the creative path he was desperately trying to forge with Mia. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of the world pressing against him. Tomorrow could carve out a path or lead him further into the depths of his fears. Was he strong enough to uphold the integrity of their shared vision, or would he buckle under the weight of his professional obligations? As the night enveloped him, Daniel realized the true test was not just in the articulation of his vision to Jack, but in his ability to stand firm against the compromises that beckoned with temptation. This inner conflict would determine his growth, whether he would flourish in this new infusion of life or be swept away by the tide of familiarity. The complexity of his dual commitment loomed ahead, and he knew the next day would be pivotal. The moment of truth awaited as dawn crept closer, and Daniel felt a surge of determination pulse through him. Little did he realize that the real transformative journey was only just beginning to unfold, as the dance between his dreams and harsh reality invited him to confront the cascading consequences of his choices. Daniel woke to the hesitant light of dawn creeping through his window, filtering through the remnants of last night's turmoil. He awoke not just physically, but also with a palpable sense of urgency coursing through him. Today was more than just another day. It was an opportunity to intertwine the threads of his dream and his reality. After hastily preparing a breakfast that mirrored his frazzled thoughts, burnt toast and undercooked eggs, he replayed the mental outline of his proposal. Speaking to Jack had felt daunting enough before he stumbled upon this vision, yet now it summoned an almost fierce desire to see it realized. He needed to project confidence and clarity, a trait that had often escaped him in the shadow of corporate expectations. His phone buzzed again with Jack's familiar tone, snapping him out of his reverie. The message was direct, urging Daniel to meet earlier, an unspoken hint of urgency masking Jack's innate skepticism. Daniel inhaled deeply, feeling a familiar weight settle on his shoulders. Was he ready to face not only Jack's specifics-driven inquiries, but also his own newfound resolve? Dressing was mechanical. He pulled on clothes that echoed the monochrome tones of his corporate environment. Yet beneath the layers of fabric was a growing determination to articulate something that could dismantle the barriers between art and business. As he navigated through the city streets, the rhythmic pulse of traffic mirrored his internal state. Each blare of a horn, each visage juxtaposed with his thoughts about Mia's vibrant dancing, provided a stark contrast. He found himself questioning If he could maintain that enthusiasm when confronted with the hard-lined metrics of performance reviews and profit margins. The stakes had never been higher, and today's meeting felt like a loaded gun pointed at his aspirations. Walking into the glass-paneled conference room, he felt the air shift around him. Jack was already inside, head down, enveloped in notes sparsely marked with numbers. Daniel's heart raced, but he steadied his breath, channeling Mia's spirit. If he could embody her passion, he believed it might just be enough to convince Jack. "Good morning, Daniel," Jack greeted, barely lifting his gaze. "I've been going through the quarterly projections. You know we can't afford any distractions right now." A knot tightened in Daniel's stomach. "Actually," he began, heart thrumming with nervous anticipation, "I think what I have to share could align beautifully with our goals. It's about driving engagement through the arts." Jack's eyes darted up, skepticism etched onto his features. "Engagement? You've been reading too many HR blogs. Our focus is on efficiency." "I get that," Daniel replied, trying to remain composed. "But what if efficiency can be enhanced through creativity? I've started formulating a proposal that illustrates how embracing a program rooted in dance and storytelling can elevate our corporate environment, increase productivity, higher morale. There's data that backs it up." Jack's expression shifted. Curiosity peaked, but still skeptical. "Proposals need to be quantifiable, Daniel. How do you plan to present that? It's a corporate world, not a stage." Her words caught in his throat, but he pushed through the trepidation. "It's a stage that could resonate, Jack. Imagine project teams filled with collaboration, harnessing the same energy as a rehearsal. I want to explore this idea not just through metrics, but through the actual experience of engaging with art, the very essence of storytelling." Jack's posture relaxed marginally, but Daniel could sense the remaining distance. He needed to go beyond words. Daniel rummaged through his bag, revealing sketches and conceptual elements that showcased the interconnection of performing arts with corporate training, each visual accentuating the proposal's potential. For the first time, he saw glimmers of intrigue flicker in Jack's eyes. "Okay," Jack replied slowly, allowing the slightest hint of endorsement. "Show me how this all fits into the wider strategy, then." Daniel's heart soared briefly, yet a sliver of caution lingered. He was entering a tenuous balance. If he presented this idea effectively, it could spark necessary changes within their company. Yet, embedded within this endeavor was the haunting question about how it would affect his partnership with Mia. Would commercial interest erode their creative vision? As they delved deeper into discussions, the momentum built, a dance of sorts, tentative yet hopeful. Daniel realized he was at a critical juncture, moments away from a decision that could reshape his personal and professional life forever. With his mind whirling, Daniel concluded the initial pitch, one thought lingering fiercely: how much of himself was he willing to compromise for success? The choice hung before him, vibrant yet treacherous, as he awaited Jack's final verdict. As the meeting drew to a close, Jack leaned back, the tension palpable in the air. "Let me think on it." "Think? You're not seriously—" But before he could finish, Jack raised a finger, stopping him mid-sentence. The weight of this moment lingered. "There's more to consider here than just numbers. We'll talk again." Daniel left the office in a haze, breathing in relief yet feeling entwined by uncertainty. Suddenly a new thought drilled into his mind, relentless. If he did not safeguard the essence of his creative collaboration with Mia, would this new path lead him to fulfillment or a greater void? The moment of reckoning had arrived, and its ramifications lay hidden just beyond the horizon. Daniel knew he'd soon have to confront not just Jack, but the very decisions that defined who he was becoming. The deeper question remained: would he risk losing himself in the pursuit of success? Days turned into weeks, each sunrise bringing a new wave of anticipation and doubt for Daniel. The hum of the city buzzed around him, but his mind remained captivated by the delicate balance he was attempting to forge. While shaking hands with prospective partners had once felt like second nature, he now faced a new frontier, one woven with creativity, connection, and the inherent risk of vulnerability. After the initial meeting with Jack, he took an opportunity to reach out, hoping to communicate his desire to marry business with artistry. Although Jack's initial skepticism had thawed, Daniel felt anxious about future discussions that could shape this delicate metamorphosis. Fueled by the brilliance of Mia's spirit and the dance they had performed together, he found purpose in every heartbeat, driving him to succeed, not for the sake of reputation, but out of love for his daughter. At home, evenings transformed into collaboration sessions rather than rehearsals. The living room became a creative sanctuary. Sketches adorned the walls, and ideas flowed as freely as laughter. Exploring dance as a medium for storytelling was exhilarating. Mia's fierce imagination invigorated him, and together they crafted a poignant narrative that embodied their journey. Each narrative twist reflected Daniel's newfound clarity about navigating the complex worlds of business and artistry. One afternoon, after a particularly triumphant brainstorming session, Mia's voice broke through Daniel's thoughts. "Dad, what if we invite Jack to see our practice?" The suggestion jolted him. "You think so?" Her nod was steadfast. "If he sees how much it means to us, maybe he will understand that it's more than just a job for you." Mingled excitement and trepidation filled his chest. Would bringing Jack into their world prove to be a further step in breaking free from convention, or could it entangle them in corporate expectations they had both worked so hard to transcend? Despite the swirling doubts, they decided to schedule a session, a rehearsal designed to illuminate the connections between creativity and commerce. The day finally arrived, lending an air of electricity to the atmosphere. Daniel paced the living room, gesturing animatedly as they prepared. Unfolding sheets of ideas, he combed through the blueprint of their performance, weaving them into a synonym for love and resilience. He glanced at Mia, who was putting on her dance shoes, enthusiasm radiating from her like a beacon. When Jack appeared at their door, Daniel felt a surge of nerves eclipse the room. "Thanks for coming," he said, trying to mask the quaking in his voice. "Thanks for the invite," Jack replied, scanning the cheerful surroundings, labeled sketches dangling from the walls. "This seems different." "Yes," Mia interjected. "Come, we want to share something special with you." As the performance unfolded, Daniel stepped into his role both as a father and as an artist, shedding the rigid expectations that once imprisoned him. Each move they executed was a dance of liberation. Laughter echoed through the room, transforming the space into a sanctuary of pure connection. Lively music played as Mia twirled gracefully, her movements an embodiment of joy, love, and freedom. Daniel joined in, embodying every word spoken and unspoken, welcoming the fluidity between his identities. When the performance ended, the air crackled with both urgency and warmth. Daniel's breath was heavy but fulfilled. He saw Jack's eyes glisten with surprise and newfound respect. "I didn't realize how impactful this could be." Jack spoke slowly, a deeper understanding etched into his expression. "You two have created something beautiful. This isn't just a hobby, it's a powerful narrative. If we embrace this, it could redefine our company culture." In that moment, the shift began, a manifestation of growth illuminating their faces. Daniel was no longer merely a businessman. He'd become an artist. The applause of unguarded gratitude from Mia rippled within him, echoing the fulfillment he had long sought. Instead of feeling threatened, Jack seemed invigorated by this new path. "Let's explore how we can integrate this into our corporate identity. If you can pitch this at the upcoming conference, we could truly reshape perceptions and open doors," he enthused. With each tentative agreement, Daniel felt a spark igniting. In that moment, he recognized the fusion of his identities. For the first time, he understood that he could be both a visionary and a protector. The weight of self-doubt shifted. He had conquered a significant hurdle without sacrificing the essence of his newfound self. Weeks later, standing before a conference room full of colleagues and executives, Daniel faced the crowd. With Mia by his side, he presented their collaborative vision, a venture ripe with potential and painted with authenticity. The supportive cheers resonated around him, affirmations of belief and approval, replacing the shadows of fear. At the heart of it all, Daniel discovered that true fulfillment resided in the intersection of his worlds. He had forged an identity that embraced creativity and passion, nurturing the bond with Mia while shining in his professional arena. The applause echoed through him. This was the achievement he had longed for, not just externally recognized success, but a profound internal transformation. As he stepped off the stage, Mia bounded up to him with uncontainable happiness. "You did it, Dad. We did it." "Together," he affirmed, the warmth of genuine pride swelling in his chest. In that moment, Daniel realized he had not only embraced change, but had also created a legacy for Mia, one of courage, connection, and authenticity. Embracing life's dance meant venturing into discomfort, but it also illuminated pathways to profound joy and immeasurable growth. The celebration ahead would mark not the end of their journey, but the beginning of a new chapter, one where creativity, connection, and love would guide them forward. Now, as you reflect on this transformative story, remember, to embark on your path of growth and change, you need to support the channel that shared this inspiring narrative with you. Subscribe immediately to never miss another exclusive emotional story that could reshape your perspective. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of overcoming obstacles through creative connections. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure these stories continue to flourish. And comment below to share your thoughts and reactions. This community thrives on your engagement, so step forward and be a part of this journey.